Hello and welcome to another session of Amir Lab. Today we are going to talk about reading and writing files with C++ and Python. The overview of the procedure that you would like to consider today is as it's shown in this figure. We would like to first create a domain for X and Y, meaning this range on X and Y plane, and then write this information using Python into a text file that we call it domain.txt. Next, we want to use C++, open this file, and use this data to calculate this equation, z equals to x squared plus y squared. Then we want to write x, y, and z data to 3 text files. Then we want to open these text files using Python and then plot it. We would also like to create a exe file using C++, so Python can directly use that file to generate the data. Okay, now that we understand the procedure, let's get started and write the program. So let's start with Visual Studio and open a new project. Okay, I'm creating a project. And I'm going to add a new item. It's a CPP file. In my CPP file, I'm going to quickly add the required libraries using name space standard. I'm going to also add include input output stream. I'm going to include file stream, f stream, because I'm going to open and read and write from the files. Now let us also define some variable like x of mean as a double, x of max, y of mean, y of max, and I'm gonna need some integer like I and j and I max. Say we start with 100 data point and j max equals to 100 as well. Now let's create the main file. And inside this main file. Okay, let's just return 0, and there we go. Okay. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create some instances of the file class and input file stream. I'm gonna call it just file, okay? And this file gonna read the uh, data from that domain file that my Python program gonna generate. Now, now that I have my instance file ready, I'm gonna say file.open, and then the name of that file, we said we're gonna call it domain. So it's gonna be domain.txt. Okay. So in that file, now I'm gonna read the values of the x of min, y of min, and y of max. So I'm going to type file, read the first value and save it in x of min. Read the second value, save it in x of max, like that, y of min, and finally y of max. Okay. Now to double check if we actually read the right values and write the right values, let's just see out real quick. X min, X max, Y min, Y max. Okay. So let's run this file real quick and see if we have any error. Okay, so we have only 4 zeros, and obviously we have not yet generated any data here in the domain.txt. Now let me quickly go to our project. So this is the project that we just created together right here, okay? And in this project, I don't have the domain file that I just named it. So that's why we just we just write zeros. Now, let's actually initiate this one. And for doing that, I'm going to use Python. I'm going to use Python, and I'm going to import library of NumPy as NP. And let's define these values of x min equals to -10, x max equals to 10, uh, y min equals to -10 again, and y max equals to 10. Okay, so now let's create a list. I'm going to call this list domain. And this is going to be equal to um, xmin, xmax, ymin, ymax. Okay, I have my list. Now I'm going to use numpy dot save txt, and I'm going to ask Python to create a file that we call it domain.txt, and I'm gonna add the domain list there. Okay, now let's save this this Python file to the same folder as our project. Save it here. And we call it this one, read, run, write. Okay. Now I'm gonna run this Python code, and now let's go back to the same folder, and here is the domain file that just got created. Now this time I'm gonna go ahead and run this file one more time, and then we have all the numbers -10, 10, -10, 10. So it works. So right now it works. We can make it maybe more beautiful by perhaps putting a comma between like each of these variables if needed. And one more here, and let's run it real quick. And we have the domain file that we are looking for. Okay, so this is good. We have this domain file here, and if you pay attention, that inside the project one, I put my Python file in the same folder, and it create the domain. Now, what I would like to do is that instead of putting this domain in this folder, I want to put it in another folder, and we can do it very well. So let me create two other folder here. I call it maybe F1, and I'm going to create another folder. This time I'm going to call it F_2. Okay. So I'm going back to this project, and then I'm going to copy these two files. I'm going to cut it from here, cut it, and paste it in this folder. Okay. And I want to save this one actually. Save as. Okay. So now I'm gonna even delete this domain from here. I'm gonna run my Python file one more time. What you can see is that it essentially recreate this domain file here. But what about the C++ file? Now I change the location of this thing, and if I run it again, what you guys see that it just types zeros. How to fix this issue? We can provide the address, exact address of this file here. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to this location here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy this path. Then I'm going back to the C++ file and I'm going to paste it right here. Now, one thing that we got to do is that we're going to make sure that we change all of these slashes to double slash. Otherwise, C++ will have a different meaning for a single slash inside the quotation. So I'm going to change it all to double slash. And this is literally the address of the file in the new folder. Now I'm going to run it one more time and let's see what's going to happen this time. Okay, so it was able to locate the file and print out the data as we wanted. Okay, so far so good. So at this point, I am able to create this domain and send it to C++. Okay, so the next thing that I would like to do is that I would like to actually generate X and Y data for creating this plot and using this equation. So this is the next thing that I would like to do. So here I start with writing my for loop. Let's start writing two for loop for creating X and Y component. For in parentheses I equals to 0 and I less than I max I plus plus and this is one of the for loop and the second one would be inside this one for parentheses open and close j equals to 0 semicolon j less than j max and semicolon j plus plus. Okay, so this is my second nested for. So inside this loop, I want to create this array for the x values. By the way, I'm gonna add x and y to the list of the doubles that I have here at the top, x, y, and z. So I'm gonna define x as x of max minus x of mean divided by, actually multiplied by I divided by I of max minus 1 plus x of mean. And similarly, I can create the vector y. So this is just using a simple linear equation to obtain all of the data point, because we want to have like 100 data point in the range of x of min to x of max. So how to obtain this data point? It's just you can just simply use a line equation as we use here. And z actually is simply can be calculated as x squared plus y squared. And next things, we want to save the value of z in a file that called z.txt. So first thing is that we need to declare this instance of file z. I'm gonna do it here. We're gonna write to this file. So I'm gonna write output file a string. I'm gonna call this one file underline z. And I'm going to also open this file. We can open it right here. File underline z, but open, and we're gonna call it z dot text. Okay. So now that we set up the instance of this file underline z, we can write the values file underline z. We're gonna write the value of z here, and we're gonna put a space between each value. And if you think about it, now what we are doing is that for any, let's say if this is the x-axis, for any of these x-axis, I populate the value of z. And then once one line is finished, I want to type end of the line so I can start from the new line. So the way I do it is that here I'm going to inside the first loop, I'm gonna type end of the line, and end of the line, you can just type inside the quotation backslash and semicolon. So it starts from particular value of x and goes all the way to the last value. Then it goes to the new line and then choose a different value for x, go over all the value of y, and keep repeating this thing. So let's just test it real quick before I add more lines, because that's the way I always want to do, like one line at a time. By the way, I'm gonna close the files as well. So file dot close, and also I'm gonna close file underline z dot close, and we should be good to go. Uh, so if I run this, then everything more working correctly, the C++ should create now this new file z.txt and put all the values there. So let's run it. Okay. I'm going to check if we have the right thing here. Going to the projects, and this is the file, text file that C++ just created for me. And this is just this matrix of data that been created. Okay. So this seems to be working. Uh, Now, similarly, I want to also have a record of X and Y values. So then when I transfer it to my Python file, it can actually plot the surface. So let's create output for X and Y similarly. And let's actually write the value of X is here. And also, before I forget, let's open these files as well. Open X, open Y, and this is X, this is Y. All right, I am typing the value of X in the file, and here I want to type the value of the Y in this inner loop. However, I want to put it inside the if statement. So if I equals to 0, only then actually uh, write the value of Y in the Y file for me. Okay. Uh, Next thing that I would like to do, I'd like to close X and Y as well. Now, if everything works fine, it should this time create a vector of X and Y as well and put it in the text file x.txt and y.txt. Let's try that. So you have 100 data point between -10 and 10 here. And similarly, you have 100 data point between -10 and 10 here as well. And this is the Z values for all of these points. Okay. So far so good. I guess now the next thing that I would like to do is that I'm happy with the C++ file that I have. Now I can go ahead and uh, make a exe file so then I can run it through my Python file. Okay. So when we want to create a executive file from the C++ file, we're going to change the debug to the release mode. And then the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to go to the build and build the solution. And then it will create a folder with the name release. And inside that, there is that exe file that we are looking for. Now, let me go here to the project. And this is the release file, and this is the now the exe file that I was looking for. I'm gonna copy this one, and I'm going to add this one. So if I put it next to the Python file, it's very easy to run it. But because I want to change the directory, I want to put it here in another file location. Okay. So in my Python file now, what I did is that I created the domain file, and then the next thing that I would like to do, I would like to use the other library. I wanna import operating system. And now the first thing that I would like to do here is that I want to type os dot change directory, and I'm going to change the directory here to the location where my C++ file is, and my C++ file is in this directory. I right click and I just copy as a pass here, and going here, going to paste it right here. Actually, I don't need like this last section, so cut it. And I'm going to also type R here. The reason is that in Windows it use uh, backslash, but then in like the Python for like the directories, it should use like the slash. So if you put a R, it would just reverse it. Now, if we do this, then it will change the directory. Let me clear this thing here for us. It should just change the current directory of the Python to this new directory. Now, if we want to see what is the current directory here, it can be done very easy. We can just type os dot get current working directory, and if we can just print it, it should show the current directory, which is this is the current directory, and this is the exact address that we want to. Now, I don't need this line, I'm gonna delete it, but what I'm gonna do is that at this point, I want to run my C++ file and see what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna type operating system dot system, and the name of the file that we had, which was project1.exe. And if we run it, then the C++ file should generate X, Y, and Z folders for us. So let's run it real quick. It seems that everything is okay. And I'm in folder 2, F2, folder 2. I have the project as the exe file, and it creates X, Y, and Z for me. And in folder 1, I have the Python file. It creates the domain file that the C++ file used. Okay, so far so good. Now, the next thing that I would like to do is that actually I would like to load the text data for X, Y, and Z. Doing so, I'm going to use numpy that load txt, and I'm gonna one more time go ahead and let's start with Z and get the location of these files that we just created here. So Z gonna copy the path here, and here I'm gonna just paste it right here, and everything is okay. The only thing I would like to change here is that I would like to just type R, so you understand that this is the reverse of the slashes that we're using for the address. Similarly, X is equals to numpy dot load txt, and this time I'm going to same folder. Now I'm getting the address for the X, copy as a pass, going back here, pasting it right here, and I'm going to just add R here, and last Y equals to np dot load txt, and I'm going to get the address for the last one, Y component, copy as a pass, pasting it here, and typing R here. And if we run it, the Python should receive the value for all of these variable. If you go to the variable explorer, this is Z, and similarly, this is X. Okay, and this is Y. starting from -10 all the way to 10. Everything worked perfect. Okay, so we are almost done. I'm gonna perform a mesh grid on X and Y, as you know, when we want to use a surface for 3D plot, we're going to use mesh grid. So X and Y equals to numpy dot mesh mesh grid X and Y. And then the next thing, I want to define the figure is equals to POT dot uh, figure, and we can specify here the figure size. Don't forget to import matplot library. PLT. So we're good there. And also define the plot axis as a projection. This is a 3D. And we can go ahead and plot the surface. Based on X, Y, and Z, and show the plot. And let's run it one more time. And finally, this is the final plot that we were looking for. This 3D surface parabola. So essentially, this was a very good example. So if we can have a quick recap here. We started by creating a text file as a domain, and then C++ then used this data and created the by the way, C++, we change it into a exe file so we can then run it with Python. Then the C++ file calculated X, Y, and Z data, where we read those from the folder location. And then we used mesh grid, and we used the plot surface to have a 3D plot of these data. Now, all of these libraries and stuff and these different passage that for the file that I showed here, you could have avoid all of these things if you put all of these file in the same folder. But I intentionally choose different folders so you guys get comfortable uh, with that as well. And also you saw in like both C++ and Python how you can open, close, and read and write different values to the files. So with that being said, this is the conclusion of this session today, and I'm looking forward to see you in another video. Thank you.